Hi, I'm Roy Wilson again. I'm back for a fairly short video this week. I wanted to come on nonetheless because I'm often asked questions related to COVID-19 or the vaccine. And the two questions that I'm asked a lot about is the first one is, a lot of places are beginning to relax their restrictions. Some states are relaxing more than others. And I often get asked the question of whether now is the right time to relax restrictions on masking, on physical distancing, on opening different venues up. And it's a complicated answer, but I'm just going to go by the science. Okay, so let's look at the science. So what is going on now versus previously? Well, certainly the number of cases and the number of hospitalizations are going down pretty drastically and going down consistently week over week. But the thing to remember though, and this is important, that it is still about twice, a little more actually, than twice what it was at its peak in July. In other words, in July, we had a certain number of cases per population. We're at twice that now. And even though it's going down, the absolute number is still very, very high. So that's not good. So what's changed between July and now that would want people to relax the whatever restrictions that were put into place in July? Well, certainly one thing that's changed is the availability of vaccines, which was not available before, and that's a good thing. Obviously there's been some problems with distribution, but nonetheless, people are getting shots in arms, and the vaccine is, for the most part, available, and more people are getting the vaccination. So that's positive. On the negative side, though, is that there are more variants out there, and we have evidence that the vaccination may not be as effective on these variants versus the primary virus. So that's not a good thing. And so when you put it all together and just look at the science of it, the answer would have to be no. Now is not the time to relax the restrictions that we put into place. So I urge everyone to continue to use your face mask, continue to social distance, continue to limit your social gatherings with people who are not part of your immediate household. The second question that comes up a lot is which vaccine is better between the various ones that are out or about to be out. And that is also a very difficult one to answer. Certainly between Pfizer and Moderna, both of those utilize messenger RNA technology, and they're pretty equivalent. I mean, there really isn't much difference between those two. Then you have some other ones, J&J, that's Johnson & Johnson, AstraZeneca, and Novavax are the other ones that are either out or about to come out. They're in latter parts of their clinical trials. And a head-to-head comparison is very difficult because the study questions might have been different. For example, and this is just one example, when you look at what the endpoint was, the primary endpoint for Moderna and the Pfizer clinical trials, it was whether or not the vaccines could prevent symptomatic COVID-19 at least 2 weeks after the second dose. That was a question, and that was the endpoint. Well, the question for J&J was different. It was, can one dose help prevent moderate to severe COVID-19 infections? So anything that deviates from those primary endpoints in those clinical trials, you really can't answer with certainty. The other thing that is very different is that at the time that J&J trial was done, there were more variants out there versus when Moderna and Pfizer were done. And so The overall effectiveness may not have been quite as good, although it was very good for severe COVID-19 infections. Although the overall effectiveness may not have been as good, you have to take into account that the J&J clinical trial had a large number of the variants that the Moderna and Pfizer trials did not have. And also, as I mentioned, it's 1 dose versus 2. There is a clinical trial going on now with J&J for 2 doses, and so it could very well be that with 2 doses it's much better. So the point is that each one of these vaccines have good results. Most of them have slightly different clinical endpoints that were examined. Head-to-head comparison is a little difficult, partly because of when the clinical trials were conducted and how many variants there were at that time. But the bottom line is, get whatever vaccine is made available to you. It will be helpful. So that's my message as far as COVID-19 and the vaccines. I do want to mention that I've completed the book that I was reading last time, which was Shanghai Girls. I mentioned last time that I didn't like it as much at the point. I wasn't finished with it. I didn't like it quite as much as I did the Tigger of Hummingbird Lane, both of which was written by Lisa C. Well, now that I finished the book, I actually think it's a better book than the Tigger, because the character development was just much deeper. It was more complex. It had more layers. The thing that was difficult about the book, though, is it was a little bit uncomfortable because of how we have to confront the reality of how we treated, by we, the United States, treated the Chinese post-World War II. It wasn't good. And to see the reality of that and how these Chinese people were struggling to stay in this country, struggling to hide if they came in through some not legal means. Just everything they had to go through was just kind of difficult, but it was a very good book. And I think they're probably, I don't know this for sure, but the way it ended was right before a sequel, and I'm not that familiar with Lisa C's books, and so there probably already is a sequel out. I'm going to check it out. That's all for now. See you again hopefully next week or soon thereafter. Warrior strong.